would love to see Canada be the 51st state. The Canadian citizens, if that happened, would get a very big tax cut, tremendous tax cut, because they're very highly taxed.
How do you feel about President Trump saying Canada should be the 51st state?
Love it.
You love it?
And that's our chance to become the Canada we're supposed to be, strong again.
I don't think it'll come to a trade war. One day of no oil down to the States, they're going to buckle.
We don't need their oil and gas. We have more than anybody.
I think we've left ourselves in such a precarious situation economically, and we've been so poorly mismanaged at the federal level by Trudeau, very specifically by his deleterious, ruinous policies on so many different things, that for a lot of people here, unfortunately, that sounds appealing.
Do you think that it would be in Alberta's best interest to perhaps, embrace a bit of that separatism and become the 51st state
Totally,
as a
yes.
province?
Yes, totally.
I think Alberta would benefit, especially given our federal government right now.
Hey man, that's not for me to decide, but
Sounds like it might be a good idea, though.
no comment.
Everything is on the table.
They will have a national unity crisis on their hands at the same time as having a crisis with our U.S. trade partners. We just won't stand for that.
With a looming tariff war between Canada and the United States and zero leadership from the federal government on how to responsibly handle the situation, there's a question that needs to be asked, which is, should Alberta revisit its arguments about separation from Canada, perhaps to join the United States, and instead of Canada becoming the 51st state, Alberta take that mantle on? I'm Sidney Fizard for Rebel News here in downtown Calgary to answer that very question. Now, the idea of Alberta separating isn't exactly a new concept, and most notably, you can look to the energy wars that took place not with Justin Trudeau, who's got his own energy war, but his father, Pierre Trudeau. And during that time, Trudeau's father slapped an export tax on Alberta energy. This caused unemployment to quadruple, home values to drop drastically, bankruptcies to rise over 150%. Tens of thousands of people left Alberta as a multi-year recession ensued. And this cost Albertans between $50 and $100 billion. And now we see that Canada has entered into a new trade war and a new Trudeau again targeting Alberta's energy and security.
President Trump publicly warned that he would impose tariffs on Canada unless we take action on critical border issues such as cracking down on fentanyl, other illegal drugs, and illegal immigration. And I've been clear from the beginning that we must take President Trump's statements on border security seriously and to take action immediately, rather than focusing on inflaming the issue with rhetoric around retaliation.
Will oil be included or excluded from those tariffs?
So we'll be announcing the tariffs on Canada and Mexico for a number of reasons. Number one is the people that have poured into our country so horribly and so much. Number two are the drugs, fentanyl, and everything else that have come into the country. And number three are the massive subsidies that we're giving to Canada and to Mexico in the form of deficits. And I'll be putting the tariff of 25% on Canada and separately 25% on Mexico. And we will really have to do that because we have very big deficits with those countries. Those tariffs may or may not rise with time.
And will oil be part of that, though? Because we get oil from Canada.
Oil is going to have nothing to do with it as far as I'm concerned. Oil has nothing to do with it.
Let's hit the streets and find out what these Calgarians and Albertans have to say.
I would love to see Canada be the 51st state. The Canadian citizens, if that happened, would get a very big tax cut, tremendous tax cut, because they're very highly taxed.
How do you feel about President Trump saying Canada should be the 51st state?
Love it.
You love it?
I don't hate it.
Never going to happen.
Not good with it.
It's a joke.
It's a joke, eh?
Yeah.
I think that would be great, actually. We disagree.
It's never going to happen. Never going to happen?
I like Trump, but it's just negotiating. Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna happen. Yeah. But I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Oh, against?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Like that just blows my mind that something like that could even be said.
Mixed reviews. I think Canada has a long way to go with especially oil and gas. And I think Danielle Smith is doing a great job speaking with him on that. I don't know. Also, I love Canada.
Horrified.
Horrified? How come?
Because why on earth would we want to be the 51st state when we're already one of the best countries on the planet?
Oh, geez. I think we've left ourselves in such a precarious situation economically, and we've been so poorly mismanaged at the federal level by Trudeau, very specifically by his deleterious, ruinous policies on so many different things, that for a lot of people here, unfortunately, that sounds appealing.
I disagree. I feel like it kind of gets rid of our identity, our unique identity as Canadians.
Not in favor, obviously. Worried about some of the recent survey trends about the younger demographic and their views on it. So it'll be interesting what happens in a generation.
And what are those demographics suggesting?
Less pride in Canada.
I really feel like Canada is amazing on its own as Canada. And I really like our independence as our own country.
I think he's joking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's true. Yeah, we supposed not like what he's going to do. Yeah.
Do you think it's more of a trade negotiation type statement?
Yeah, this is his style. Absolutely, yeah.
Absolute disgrace. Stupidest thing ever I've heard in my life. Canada on its own is 51. Canada's huge, as big as America is. Canada has its own country. Why would you not want to be your own country?
We have our issues. We've always had our issues, but trying to make it another state, not really an issue, not really something I'd like.
I think it's absolutely obscene, actually. Canada should expand our wings, expand our horizons, and find some people that'll treat us with dignity that we deserve.
Love it.
You love it, eh?
Love it. I think that Trudeau has ruined this country, right? Economically, financially, and that's our chance to become the Canada we're supposed to be, strong again.
Canada would consider an energy embargo on the United States. And I want to, as leverage, what do you think, what do you make of what she said?
Well, first of all, it's oil and gas is owned by the provinces, principally Alberta, and we won't stand for that. And you should never, ever threaten something you cannot do. And I would encourage the minister to look at a map of where Line 5 goes. Line 5 comes down through Michigan to get to Sarnia. And then that feeds the bulk of the supply needed for Ontario and connects with Line 9, which feeds the bulk of the product needed for Quebec. And so if you cut off that line, you are cutting off Ontario and Quebec. So I would encourage the ministers to either understand how our integrated pipeline system works and start looking at ways that we would be able to practically respond, because there's no point in making empty threats that cannot be executed on.
Everything is on the table.
They will have a national unity crisis on their hands at the same time as having a crisis with our U.S. trade partners. We just won't stand for that.
Do you think that the federal government in Ottawa is doing a better job handling these, tariff negotiations in comparison to Premier Danielle Smith in Alberta?
No, absolutely not. They're the reason we're in this mess, the federal government.
Smith 100% is doing a better job. Ottawa's doing nothing right now.
It's still pretty early to tell, actually. We got a long way to go yet, but there's a lot we can do, but we should just try and get along. Let's make this all work.
Not fully researched on it, but from what I've read in the media, I probably lean a bit towards Premier Smith.
She does not have any idea how to negotiate. Let's start negotiations by laying all of our cards on the table so the other guy can see it. And you want, so we'll just give away stuff before the negotiations. Yet no. She doesn't have a clue what she's doing.
She is showing up and she's actually trying to make negotiations and make peace with it, versus Trudeau has already insulted Trump and there's no real coming back from that.
I call him Governor Trudeau, but he's Prime Minister Trudeau when he was Prime Minister. And I said, do you think it's fair that we're paying $200 billion to keep Canada going? And what would happen, I asked him, what would happen if we didn't do that, if we didn't subsidize Canada? He said, we'd be a failed nation. And I said, then you should be a state.
I think it's Alberta. Yeah, we do a very good job, yeah.
This might be a little bit close-minded to say, but I'm on whatever side still retains a unique Canadian identity and advocates for all of the personal interests and collective interests of us as a country.
Liberals seem to be, Trudeau's and the other provinces seem to be on board, but Danielle Smith doesn't. I don't know. She seems to wants to be a loner all the time.
I think with Danielle Smith, the way that she's playing the game with Donald Trump, I think she's doing great. And like the other day, she just said she wanted to double Oil production, I think that's a great idea. Like, we need it.
The government of Alberta's ambition is to double oil and gas production, and today we've signed a letter of intent with Enbridge to accelerate these growth opportunities and ensure more capacity for oil and gas is available.
Danielle Smith is the person for it. She's doing a great job, and we're very lucky in Alberta to have her representing our benefits and negotiating with Trump.
I like Smith. I'm from Ontario, actually.
Me too.
I think she's very articulate. I think she's got a lot of great points to make, and I think she's probably doing the best job, for sure.
To be honest, neither of them right now. my personal opinion, he wants to put the tariffs on. Turn off the oil.
For the reasoning behind the tariffs, it's largely, so they have stronger border enforcement and drugs.
And I understand what it's all about.
Well,
how he's trying to manipulate everything. He wants to do that. Put the tariffs on. Turn off the oil. Turn off the electricity. Turn off.
Well, let me just ask you the question, though. Do you think it would be easier for Canada to go to a trade war with the United States versus just cracking down on border security?
I don't think it would come to a trade war. One day of no oil down to the States, they're going to buckle.
We don't need their oil and gas. We have more than anybody.
So I guess you think that Alberta isn't really getting a fair deal in all this, right? I mean, Trudeau said that we might have a ban on oil exports or a huge tariff. So what do you think about that?
It's going to hurt everybody, not just the people in Alberta, and it's not good for the country as a whole.
No, like what he's doing, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. They've screwed it up from banning pipelines, putting in ridiculous environmental. They've screwed Alberta over.
Step C or D in a long process.
So you don't think it's going to come to that?
I don't think it'll come to that.
I think they could be doing more to try and alleviate some of the fears within Alberta and trying to smooth things over.
Well, and then on the other side, we have Trudeau again. I mean, he elected Rachel Notley to be part of the council on, the Canada-U.S. trade relations situation. Yeah. How do you feel about that appointment?
Not good. No, I don't agree with that at all. I think Rachel Notley should leave politics for good.
There have also, for generations, been ongoing disputes between Alberta and the federal government, notably over oil exports and the such. Do you think that this relationship is going to get better or worse over time?
I think it's going to get worse. There is no better.
The Liberals in Ottawa have been so anti-Alberta and so anti-resources for so long, and it's made no sense. It's just given us. We've reaped so much wealth as a country from our resource sector here. And for them to turn around and attack it the way they've done for so long, and I'm from Ontario, I'm from Toronto. I mean, I have great sympathy for you guys out here just having to deal with that for so long.
Do you think that it would be in Alberta's best interest to perhaps, embrace a bit of that separatism and become the 51st state
Totally,
as a
yes.
province?
Yes, totally.
This is a tough question. I don't think this is possible to do so, but it depends.
I think it would be a disadvantage to Alberta. We've got a ton of resources. We're way better off on our own as part of Canada, not part of the U.S.
Hey man, that's not for me to decide, but
sounds like it might be a good idea, though.
No comment.
I think so, yeah. I know lots of people are indifferent about the whole Wexit and everything, but I think Alberta would benefit, especially given our federal government right now.
Not at all. I think we should, no. I don't even think that would fly, actually, because Canadians are true Canadians. Yeah. We have a lot of pride, and I think we should just focus on making Canada wealthier, however that may be. There's a lot of other people that want the oil. There's a lot of other people that will need our minerals.
Obviously, for a long time, Alberta and the federal government have been kind of at ends, notably with regards to oil as a major part of our economy here in Alberta. And Alberta obviously still retains a lot of their own, provincial identity. Do you think that perhaps instead of Canada becoming the 51st state, it would be better for Alberta to become the 51st state?
There have been cohorts that have advocated that for many years. There is some merit to the argument, but I'm still a Canadian at large, so I personally wouldn't support it. But I think the way the feds have managed the asset of Alberta is not good. I think they've mismanaged Alberta's contribution to Canada.
Well, look, to go back a bit there, I don't know why we would trust anything that Trudeau would do on this file. I don't think he's given us cause to trust him at all, right? So that I would start from wrong guy, shouldn't be in that job, doing these negotiations. And I could see the appeal of Alberta looking at that situation and saying, hey, we probably have a better deal there than we do here. I get it. I sympathize with the situation here.
No, I like her independence. I think she's going about it the right way and not antagonizing in the press and not like the Liberal government is. And I think the way to do it is because there's no doubt, I mean, the Americans are 10 times the size of us, 10 times the GDP. So we need to play nice. We don't need to roll over, but we need to play nice. And I think, yeah, Daniel Smith is doing a great job. Fantastic.
Well, there you have it. We got some mixed reviews today, but a lot of people in support of the idea that perhaps it's in Alberta's best interest to consider whether or not they themselves as a province want to join the United States and leave Justin Trudeau's federal government behind, especially considering we're going to have a prime minister that hasn't been elected by the people, and then some who want to retain that Canadian identity. But time will tell, as we are expecting tariffs to be imposed very shortly. Let us know in the comments what you guys think. For Rebel News, I'm Sidney Fazard. HandsOffAlberta.com is where you have to go if you want to stay updated on the latest between the disputes between Alberta and the federal government. Time and time again, Ottawa has shown a reluctance to play ball with Alberta. So if you want to stay updated, go to HandsOffAlberta.com.